Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Designs by Dana. I'm Dana and I'm also a close to my heart maker. I'm currently working through the 30-day sketchbook challenge by Christy's Beautiful Life. This is series 12. I have my bingo card that I'm working on this month, and you see I've done 2 so far. This is my 3rd sketch of the month, and I'm going to pull out my item for this layout I'm working on, and let's see what we've got. I'm so glad we got stickles and liquid pearls. I have my concept for this layout already designed, and I was hoping it wasn't going to be something too terribly difficult to incorporate. So this will be relatively easy for me to incorporate into the project. So let me set this aside and we'll bring in the sketch. This is the sketch that we're working on today. It was created by, and I'm probably going to butcher this last name, and I sincerely apologize, Lisa Skill. I'm not even going to try. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lisa. The last name is spelled S-I-K-O-R-S-K-I. Thank you, Lisa, for this sketch. The first thing I noticed about this sketch, obviously, is that it's a 2-photo sketch. Does have a title across the middle. It's very linear in the design of the sketch, which leaves a lot for interpretation. So I'm going to bring in my photos. I do have 2 photos, and my photos are in a slightly different orientation, so I'm going to change that up right off the bat, and then we'll bring in the rest of my supplies and go from there. So let me get this out of the way. I'll bring in what supplies I have already planned out, and we'll see what we can do with that and how we can incorporate our stickles and or liquid pearls into the mix. So I'm going to bring in my paper here, and I've decided to make this an 8.5 by 11 page. And I'm using a piece of Mink Cardstock as my base, and I want to make sure that I'm using the right side. So I'm going to use the light side of the cardstock, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to emboss a pattern here that mimics that concrete in the background. So I want the embossed part on the light side, so I'm just making sure that I'm using the dark side here. So I'm making a line here. My first one is about a 1/2 inch in, and I'm just kind of showing you there that the embossed side is on the light side of the paper, and it's hard to see on camera, but you will see more of that as we go along. And then for this particular pattern, if you want to follow with the measurements, I'm moving my paper over 1.5 inches, making the next line, and then I just moved it over a 1/2 inch, and now I'm moving it back in another 1.5 inches, making another line here. And you notice that I'm making my lines like 3 or 4 times. Instead of pushing really hard one time, I'm doing it rather lightly and going over it multiple times so I don't risk tearing my paper. Now I'm going in another 1/2 inch. So basically the pattern is a 1/2 inch, 1.5 inches, a 1/2 inch, 1.5 inches, and so on. So there's another 1/2 inch. I think it might have been a 1/2 inch. I might have lost track. And now I'm going to go 1.5 inches. But as I do that, I'm about a 1/2 inch from the edge of the paper, so it's a little easier to turn it the other side, the other way around, and go a 1/2 inch in that way. So that puts all of my embossing pattern on there. You can see it a little bit on camera, but it's a little hard to see. But this is where the magic comes in. So I'm using pewter ink, and I'm just going to lightly rub that on my paper, and it, like I said, it kind of looks like magic because now you can see those embossed lines on the pattern. And I don't mind that some of the ink shows through because it gives it that kind of concrete looking piece of paper, which is the look I'm wanting for to mimic the concrete in the background. So I'm bringing in my pieces of paper here. As the sketch kind of indicated, it's really just strips of paper. This paper is from a very old paper pack called Moonlight, I think, and it was an old Halloween paper pack, but I thought it worked well with the rich colors in that heart, kind of the mahogany purplish color. So I'm going to dry fit this out, And even though I do have the two photos and they're not in the same orientation, you see that I'm kind of lining them up here on the left-hand side so that they kind of are in alignment, which is kind of my goal. I pulled in this stamp set in a book because obviously with the books on this heart was located at the front of the downtown Kansas City library. So we were doing some additional heart hunting. If you've watched any of my other videos that I've done, this was a heart hunting adventure, and I'm doing a 8.5 by 11 album with this adventure memory. And so here I'm showing you that I put these book die cuts on here, and I colored them, of course, but to add some more visual interest to them, I actually looked up a bunch of small book titles and wrote them in with my marker. So I've got that glued down, and I wanted to come in with my idea to embellish with the liquid pearls. And I also brought the stamp set in and did a couple extra stamps there. And now I'm going to add my liquid pearls. So as I do that, real fun fact on that die cut with the books, if you ever need a die cut that looks like a city skyline, that's a die cut that would be perfect for a city skyline as well. So I'm quickly just going to add some liquid pearls throughout the page here, just some quick little embellishments to add some more dimension and interest to the page. And as I do that, I want to mention that when you do your liquid pearls and stickles, sometimes they have kind of that Hershey Kiss point on top. So what I like to do is bring in my bone folder. You'll see me here, and I'm just kind of flicking the back of that, and I call it flick to flatten, and that just kind of flattens that point at the top to make it more of a rounded point. And so here I'm just showing you I use a lot of markers for my inking. Okay, so I have a finished layout here, and I'm quite pleased with how simplistic I was able to keep this one. As you guys know, I do tend to love to embellish, and sometimes I can get a little crazy with my embellishing. So I think I kept this one relatively simple, and I was inspired by the sketch to do that with this particular layout. And I also showed you how to take a 12 by 12 sketch and pare it down to an 8.5 by 11. So this will work very well for me in my album that I'm working on for these hearts to go into 8.5 by 11. So I did, of course, complete my challenge to incorporate the stickles. So I got to mark off that bingo box on my bingo card. I was happy about that because it was something easy that I can incorporate, and just, you know, makes me think of things that are easy to bring in that I don't always think of. So this challenge is working very well for me so far this month. So let's bring in the sketch and do a quick little comparison. So again, this was a really easy sketch to modify from a 12 by 12 to an 8.5 by 11. The linear pattern is really simplistic, which I like that because it challenged me to not over embellish, and you could do a lot with it in changing your orientation of the photos. So I kept with the two photos. I did change my orientation. I didn't put my title here because this will eventually have a coordinating left-hand side, which I may try to find another sketch that works for the left-hand side of this. Will eventually be a double page. So the title will go on that side. So I didn't include the title, and I didn't do, you know, obviously the hearts and the way that they were arranged, but I did add, you know, some embellishing in my stamping and markering, and then this, you know, really is my main embellishment here, and of course the stickles, actually liquid pearls. But I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I hope you like it. If you like it as well, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done that as well, and stay tuned. I will definitely have more videos coming forth later this month and as we get through the month, and hope you are enjoying this as much as I am. Thank you so much for your time and watching my video today, and we will see you soon. Bye.